to basically hand over all of their interest in eastern Ukraine or, quote, face serious repercussions. I think Russia's already facing the repercussions of the West destabilizing their country. And again, it's not that I'm saying the Russian government's flawless or perfect in this, but clearly the West is the aggressor. The EU globalist combine is trying to start a major destabilizing regional war that could lead to something much larger. Now, continuing here, ladies and gentlemen, Russian troops, of course, have been massing on the border with eastern Ukraine. New York Times reported that yesterday. Kremlin website today hit by powerful cyber attack. We're going to be breaking that down. Russian government bans several websites critical of the government. Again, war is the health of the state. This is going to let Putin cement power, what's happening, by the way, and will reverse any freedom reforms that were actually taking place in Russia. Bloomberg reports that Russia is preparing to invade East Ukraine, Estonia says. I mean, these are just incredible headlines, and they're not top news anywhere but Infowars.com and DrudgeReport.com and real media sites that actually care about not having World War III. And again, this is not even about Ukraine is run by something like North Korea and the Russians are involved, so we're going to attack them to liberate people in death camps. No, the globalists that run our country will put in authoritarian regimes in many cases. They're overthrowing Ukraine because it was elected and because they didn't join the EU. It's just amazing that we're just here on the eve of possible destruction, surfing the apocalypse, and I mean, there's like I don't know, a 10% chance that we could have a hot war start. I'm being very conservative there. It could be a much higher percentage. And I told you, I've had a lot of dread the last 6 months, and it's been intensifying exponentially. And there's a lot of reasons. The economic meltdown, the cultural decay, evil being released on every level, the hedge of protection falling from our republic. Clearly, the Russia situation, the funding of al-Qaeda publicly. The fact that all this is public now, that our government runs al-Qaeda and is using the threat to take our rights, that the government's spying on us all illegally and using it to destroy their political opponents and shut down the press, that there's just ruthless looting going on everywhere. Government interests run most of the narcotics trafficking, launder the money with the big banks. And it's all come out, but then none of it gets reversed. It just gets worse and worse and worse. And historically, when governments don't get restrained and corporate interests don't get restrained, you get a World War I, a World War II. You get a huge European continent war. You get a Napoleonic war. I mean, it just follows a path. And I hope we don't go down this path all the way, but we've already gone down at about 80%. And we're fast approaching all-out war, and then Homeland Security will be used to clamp down domestically and organize the U.S. into a giant paramilitary force for all the wars. And you'll have to get in line because America's losing a war on multiple fronts. And they'll be able to then teach the kids how to wear dresses, little boys, and put them all on drugs and forced inoculations and forced abortion and eugenics, because that'll all be on the back burner now politically. You know, we got to do what we're told of Lord Obama with the big war going with Russia. And Russia's going to use this to clamp down and seize power. Not like Putin needed to begin with. It's just a bad situation. The situation with Russia has deteriorated so fast and is going the worst possible direction it could go, and exactly the way we thought it probably would go, but hoped it wouldn't, that we should all be at prayer vigils. We should all be getting right with God. People should be freaking out right now. Because John Kerry has said, and NATO has said, and the Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman has said, Dempsey, that the United States with NATO is preparing military action, not just massive sanctions against Russia by Monday, if Vladimir Putin does not hand over Crimea and the gas pipelines that the Russians own and their bases basically to the EU for full looting. And it's two different global mafias fighting over control of that plum, the breadbasket, and the gas basket, where they bring most of the gas to Europe out of Gazprom. The problem is it's Russia's back door. Crimea used to be part of Russia, and the West started this. So it's kind of like Stalin was bad, but Hitler attacked Russia. So he's known as the bad guy. But Putin is no Stalin. He's certainly becoming crazed and expelling Western executives who he believes are operatives for things like jaywalking and speeding, any excuse they've got. Because, I mean, quite frankly, they know they're operatives, a lot of them. That's in Bloomberg. Look at this. I now get Amber Alerts on the company phone. I have 2 company reporter phones in here. This is the New World Order. We get Obama alerts on these as well, where the state's going to be taking over TV, radio, you name it, even with video feeds of El Presidente. Even when the audio was turned off on these, it overrode it. That's all the back doors and everything, folks. Great example right there. I've got 2 reporter phones right here that I've been reviewing footage of. Some of the footage Jakari shot at the Super Bowl, stuff like that. Where was I? Going back. Yeah, there are alerts going off in there. I mean, this is just total government control. And at first, it's Amber Alerts about floods or missing kids. And then it's report illegal guns. Or report this alleged terrorist, Alex Jones, who's on the run. And your alert went off as well in there? Yeah, there you go. It's Temple, Texas Amber Alert. That's 90 miles away. A 2007 maroon Mazda 6 sedan. Here, come get your phone. Thanks. Thanks. And then coming out, they're going to have all the license plates federally controlled that are going to be digital, little TVs. And you'll pay for that with your taxes, and then it's going to be giving you constant brainwashing messages, constant tattletale messages. I mean, this is a hellish system that's being built because we're letting technocrats use our money, use our ingenuity, use our taxes to build a hellish nightmare. That's why the sky's the limit, because they're just totally going for broke. The public is just now figuring out that everything is being totally criminally surveilled to socially engineer society and to give select inside corporate data to the insiders to be able to corner every market. And Snowden has now come out with that. You know, you heard it here 16, 17 years ago, and, you know, now the documents have been released. Of course they're using spy data to corner markets. Of course they're using spy data on the Senate and the House. Of course different intelligence agencies are spying on each other. Of course they're using it to steal patents and technologies and give them to select corporations. Of course it's used to wreck the free market. And that's why it's a crime to spy on someone illegally. You got to have a warrant with an oath or affirmation, and the person, place, papers, and effects to be seized, and the oath or affirmation of why that's happening. I saw dead bodies in a trunk in John Doe's basement when I was there fixing the pipes on April 14th. And I have sworn this, and I can be confronted in court. They got rid of the right of facing your accuser with confidential informants, folks, who go around lying and setting people up, professional liars, professional snitches, who will say anything the system wants. You notice the media and the system always demonizes defense lawyers. It's really the defense lawyers that are holding back the total onslaught of evil takeover. I mean, these prosecutors in many areas, and the federal prosecutors, are absolute flaming crooks. Do they go after the trillions being laundered to the big banks every decade? Do they go after the white slavery grids? Do they go after any of the real stuff, DynCorp? The answer is no. But if you are selling marijuana out of your house, they're going to SWAT team raid you, kill your dog. The SWAT team's going to beat you up and say, shouldn't be a doper. Man, I was on this website. I think I sent it to Watson. I forget the name the other night, watching SWAT team raid videos that they shot. And like half the time they come in the house, the people are all asleep, don't resist. A fat basset hound runs out and they shoot it and it's squealing. And they've got night vision cameras and it's blood's everywhere. And then they beat up the dad and everything and they go, look. And it's like a half pound of marijuana. Look at this, you doper, you're going to jail. I mean, it's just what a joke. While the government brings in the hard narcotics on record. And then they push psychotropics and amphetamines and Adderall on the kids, and then GMO, and add deadly chemicals to the water. Over 200 plus chemicals on average are added to the water in the so-called fluoride mix. Lead, mercury, arsenic, Grignard reagents, heavy metals of every smattering, total brain damage, massive cancer, total psycho takeover, tens of thousands of declassified government projects, some cases thousands of people killed per project, radiating foster children, injecting AIDS in foster children, Bayer injecting people with HIV. I mean, just on and on. Just mass murder, forced sterilization, ongoing currently. Just total psycho evil. And now they want to start war with Russia. And it's just funny that, you know, Napoleon finally was taking over everything, so he attacked the Russians. Hitler did the same thing, and now the New World Order is going to do it. It just never ends. Absolutely never ends, ladies and gentlemen. Never ends. And if you go out and try to talk to the average person about it, they just go, "What are you for Putin? I say nuke him." Well, the only problem is it's not like Iraqis or somebody that don't have anything to fight back with. And yeah, the United States, run by the globalists, probably has double the nukes that are deliverable in reality and a lot of high-tech weapons, but it's not going to matter. A lot of those Russian nukes are going to make it here, and the cruise missiles are going to make it, and they're going to nuke Western Europe. And, you know, where's that going to be for all you trendies? I mean, that's going to kind of mess up your plan to make all the little boys wear dresses, isn't it? I mean, you people are out of control. Napoleon Bonaparte was a lot smarter than you are. Adolf Hitler was smarter than you are. And look what happened to them. I mean, you just really need to back off right now and not start World War III. I mean, John Kerry looks like, I was on a Knoxville, one of our affiliates in the talk show. Some of those guys on as guests sometime. They made the point that he looks like the Eastern Island statues, Kerry. I've always described him like Lurch or something from the Addams Family. There's so much Botox, but why get into what he personally looks like? He's a skull and bones occultist who thinks he's invincible on a power trip, and he publicly tried to launch a war with Al-Qaeda, with the U.S. as its Air Force. The military said no 5-6 months ago, and that was all about a proxy war with Russia. And now they are launching a big attack in Ukraine. And again, it doesn't mean the Russians are perfect, doesn't mean they're good. The West is starting this, folks. It's dangerous, it's bad, it's not good. And I know that's a simple way of putting it. I mean, it's outrageously dangerous. It's over-the-top insane. There are no words to describe how bad this is. And we're just so used to being comfortable. We are so accustomed to just getting away with everything, and everything's comfortable and everything's nice, because we've been living off the liberty and freedom and due process that our ancestors fought for. But the bank's empty now. And the chickens are coming home to roost. And you know, I got articles here where Zuckerberg phones Obama to blast him about NSA. We have the New York Post PR pieces. The Facebook is the NSA on record. So that's PR. And George Soros comes out and says, we better not have sanctions on Russia. We better de-escalate this, because he doesn't want his name on this big war that's about to start while he's in the middle of it. Because he realizes that once he starts a war flat out, which he's doing with Russia, that, you know, your name's on this, boy. Your name's on this. You think you're going to get away with this? Well, you try to shut down the First Amendment, the Second Amendment here. You think you're going to just, you're not going to get away with this, Soros. In French news agency saying this, here it is. It's very important to respond and respond the right way, which is not necessarily to impose sanctions on Russia, but to actually help Ukraine financially. That means come in and loot them. And also technical assistance, something like European Marshall Plan for Ukraine. Yeah, OECD. That would be the right response. So he's like, let's be friendly to Russia. Yeah, let's come in, build them up militarily, financially loot them. Don't run, we are your friends, Russia. We are being conquered by an ideology of tyranny. That is the spirit of our enemy that throughout history in every culture and every race has preyed upon the public. It is a mutated form of culture, a predatory system where the establishment set themselves up like the Morlock and we the Eloi of H.G. Wells' Time Machine, which is an allegory in his own words of how the world system actually works. He was a top Fabian socialist and bioethicist eugenicist. Now, continuing, ladies and gentlemen, or simply put, an adherent of this system that governs our world, and it's time to eradicate normal human activity in a revolution against humanity, a final revolution in their own way, in their own words. Here are some of the headlines up on Infowars.com. United Nations attacks Second Amendment. New Iraq law legalizes rape. Feminists too busy banning words here in the United States to care. They never criticize any radical Islamicist. They only criticize men having muscles or being strong, or fathers being manly, or calling anybody bossy. UN tells us to eat bugs while elite live as kings. Very important special report that just posted on Infowars.com. Another report we're going to be playing here that's amazing. Shot by Southwest Trendies want to ban cars. I sent Kit Daniels, one of our great reporters, out to ask, hey, if people want to ban guns when somebody kills a bunch of folks with guns, people use cars just as much for mass murder. In fact, there's more people that use cars every year to run over folks. It's over 200. It's 160-something that die in mass shootings every year, most of them gang-related. So should we ban cars? And I thought they would go, no, don't blame the inanimate object, blame the driver. But a bunch of them said, no, ban cars. So England is moving to make you get a license to have a butcher knife because they have stabbings are up tenfold the last 15 years since they banned guns. You can look that up in the BBC. They're very proud of it. With a straight face, they say, ban butcher knives, unless you're a registered chef, because they are a deadly weapon. It is the butcher knife's fault. So there you go. Ban the cars, ladies and gentlemen. They certainly live in la-la land, don't they? And we're also going to get into a bunch of really important news. But, you know, I mentioned this, and I'm just going to finish up with this now and then get into all the other news. John Kerry, on the heels of the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Dempsey, saying they're prepared for military action anytime they're ordered to do so. The Ukrainian government is massing their 1 million-man reserve army near the Crimean border. The Russians are massing hundreds of thousands of troops and weapon systems, armored vehicles, helicopters, you name it, I guess, to repel that attack. Russia has until Monday to reserve and reverse course on Ukraine, Kerry says. And don't forget that in 2008, on the start of the Olympics, when they thought Russia wouldn't respond, they launched attacks in South Ossetia and Abkhazia, both similar to Crimea, being zones along the Russian border. And they actually attacked Russian military bases and killed the people in the barracks. And then started putting NATO troops on the ground. Russia rolled medium-range mobile nukes in that can't be easily targeted by cruise missiles because they move every 10 minutes and then retarget, move 10 minutes, retarget, move 10 minutes, retarget, move 10 minutes, retarget. You know, the big missile trucks. And they were targeting Western Europe, by the way, NATO bases. And the West backed off. But they're doing it again. Just to see, you know, just poke the grizzly bear, just see what it does. And now they've got a cattle prod out poking the grizzly bear. And but don't worry, here at home, the Big Red One is domestically training to take on gun owners publicly in the Army's public manuals. It's total high treason. It's had the byproduct effect, the blowback effect, that the military is totally waking up because they are being trained to take our guns. And they're freaking out because they're good patriots on average. The most patriotic, most awake people are U.S. military. Active duty and non-commissioned officers are on fire for the Republic. Upwards of 90% are now awake. It was 80% 6 months ago. I'm getting chills right now. I don't know what the New World Order thinks they're going to pull, but they're going to fall on their face. The problem is it may turn the surface of the earth into molten slag, so it won't matter. But the military is freaking out, folks, because they're training to take on the Tea Party. And that's not just Infowars.com that broke that and Drudge that amplified it. It's in Forbes, it's in the Washington Times, it's in the Army Times, it's in Stars and Stripes. But in Stars and Stripes, they try to report it just real calmly. Like, well, we don't like training, the colonel says, to pull triggers on Americans, but that's the new mission. You know what they did in Army Times when that first was published 4 years ago? They went and pulled the colonel's quote, but we have the page saved.